Hi, years 9 and 10. Welcome back to the video supporting you with the work on Once Upon a House on Fire this week. And we are on to question 4. Now, we know that over the course of the questions, the skills that are required of you get a little bit more complex. So they start with, can you evidence find? Can you find explicit information? Can you form impressions from what you find in the passage? Can you then work out how the writer was giving you the understanding that you have of the passage? And then by question 4, it's very often going to be asking you about, can you have a look at not just finding evidence, forming impressions of that evidence, looking at how the writer used the language, but it's also how the writer put that together in a sequence for you as well. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. We're interested in the structure, but more important than that, we can't make assumptions about the structure until we know the details that are going on. And I know that in some of the marking that I've been doing of the work this month, that those details have not been about the evidence that you're looking at. It's almost been like there's been a repetition of, well, for example, today's question asks about the family struggle, and when I then read the answer, I have a piece of evidence and then it'll say, and this shows the family are struggling, but it doesn't unpick the evidence. It doesn't tell me in that particular piece of evidence what the particular struggle was. So that's what we're going to look at today to support you, because the more detail you can get in about the individual pieces of evidence and look at a range of the family struggle, the better your mark will be. And only by doing that can you say whether the piece moves from minor struggles to major struggles, or major struggles and then ends with more minor struggles. Okay, so you've got to look at the detail. Let's look at the question then. Read section 4. How does the writer suggest that the family are struggling in these lines? You should include what the writer says about the family struggles, how the writer uses language, tone and structure. Okay, let's have a look. So I find the part of the extract that says section for question 4, kind of little subheading for you. And I'm going to divide up my 15 minutes as we do into some of those minutes I'm going to spend reading, and some of those minutes I'm going to spend writing it up for the examiner. Maximum 7 minutes on the reading. If I can do it in slightly less and get to 10 pieces of evidence in 6 minutes, I know that some students can do this in 5 minutes. Some students incredibly fast at finding that evidence, which is fantastic. But if you need up to 7 minutes, that is absolutely fine. Just cut off at 7 minutes and then start the write-up. Okay, so first job then. Let's have a look at prepping up some of this together. Then I will time you guys and just remind you of the things that you should be doing. We underline a piece of evidence. We try to label what sort of struggle it is. If we can see anything that is going on in the language that is interesting, if we spot a simile, or it's an interesting piece of description, or there's an adjective that's working really hard, or a verb that's working really hard, fantastic. That's what we underline, and we maybe make a note of that as well. We're looking for 10 pieces of evidence if we can. So it starts off, tea was ketchup with mashed potato and things out of tins, baked beans or spaghetti. Now, in terms of a struggle, there's something going on for me there, because I remember in the 70s when this is set, food wasn't as abundant as it is now in the family home. There wasn't cupboards full of stuff. You didn't get like a kind of full meal every night that was something that you really loved. Sometimes it literally was just, here's your mashed potato, because potatoes are cheap, and here's some ketchup to give it a bit of flavour. So there's something for me there that is about the family struggle, that there is clearly a limit on the amount of money that they have. And there's also something about things out of tins, baked beans or spaghetti. There's a sense of quickness, speed. Is time limited in this family for caring for the children? So that sounds like two things to me. Is there a struggle for money in order to provide a rich and varied diet? And is there a struggle for time in this family? So two very, very clear ideas. So I can split that quotation up. Tea with ketchup with mashed potato. I'm going to underline that, and I'm going to share with the examiner what that suggests about it lacking a varied diet. Maybe money was limited. And then I'm also going to underline things out of tins, baked beans or spaghetti. And I'm going to suggest that time is limited to look after the children, that family time is not in abundance here. There's not a lot of it. Okay, so I've got two pieces of evidence there. Let's do a third together, and then you can have some time to have a look at where else you might go here. We ate it without a word. Now, I get it. So I'm going to bring my human experience to this, because this is about looking at the detail and making sure that what I say about quotation 3 isn't the same as what I said about quotation 1 and 2. We ate it without a word. Now, either they really love it and there's no time for talking, and tomato ketchup and mashed potato is not so bad, actually. So either they're really enjoying it, which I could suggest, or there's something about this family struggling to communicate well, struggling to get on, struggling to be amicable, friendly, loving in their communications with each other. So I've got something there. I haven't noticed in these first 3 descriptions that there's anything particularly striking in terms of the language. There's no, great similes, there's no metaphors, there's no onomatopoeia. What there is just description. Accurate description. So I will share that with the examiner. The description: tea was ketchup with mashed potatoes. The description: tins of baked beans or spaghetti. We ate without a word. Without a word, an adverbial phrase showing us how they ate. It gives us more detail. The adverbial phrase, we ate it without a word, suggests that the family either really enjoyed the food they were eating, or it could suggest that they did not communicate well as a family group. Okay, so there's 3 for you. Look at how I looked at the different struggles. The first struggle suggested something about money and the economy in this family. The second struggle looked at the idea of time, a family being time poor. The third struggle looked at the idea that there was something about the dysfunction in the way they communicate. So that's 3 very separate struggles of this family. I have not claimed this quotation shows they struggle. This quotation shows they struggle. This quotation shows they struggle. Because I wouldn't get many marks for that. I would get marks for finding evidence, but I would have very, very limited marks on showing understanding. So please try to get the details. I'm looking at the time on the video. We're 8 minutes, nearly 45 in. Let's say I spent 1 minute looking for those 3 quotations and just annotating them up, which would give us a maximum of 6 minutes left, but even better if we can do it in 5 or 6. So I'm going to time you now another 4 minutes, and I will call out when that 4 minutes is up. Then I'll also call out when the 5 minutes is up, and I'll call out when the 6 minutes is up. Stop whenever you have finished. So if it's at 5.5 minutes, that's absolutely fine. What you'll see on the video, you can scooch forward because I'm going to shut up for that time. So when you start to see my mouth moving again, that's the time to pick it up again. Okay, so I will see you on the other side. We're going to start the timing for that first 4 minutes. Get yourself ready and off you go. If you can hear funny noises, that's my husband. He's in the other room. He's working, but he's got a bit of rave music on and he talks loudly on the phone, and he's full of joy, so just random noises. You're 1 minute into your 4. Keep going. Be specific about what is the struggle. This is what my husband's doing. Funny. You're coming up on 2 minutes of the initial 4. Think broadly. It doesn't have to be a struggle that all the family share. It could be one person in the family. You can have a look at the elements of the family. So it could be a particular struggle that the mother has, or the father has, or that the children have. So think broadly. That will give you a much better answer. You have just over 1 more minute of the 4 minutes to make up the first 5. Okay, so in 10 seconds, if you finish the reading and you've got 10 really great pieces of evidence, then you've done it in 5 minutes. Scooch us forward and you can pick us up as we go through some of the answers. If you're going to do the 6 minutes reading, you've got another minute left. If you're going to take the 7 minutes of reading, you've got 2 minutes left. Keep going. Thirty seconds for those people doing the 6 minutes. If you've aimed for 6 minutes, we're at 6 minutes. You can stop at any time. As soon as you get your 10 good pieces of evidence, then fantastic. And we can add that onto your writing. So we're just going to go up to the 7 minute mark now. some extracts are more complex than others. They will take people more time to pull things out. That's absolutely fine. We can't expect it to be the same experience every time we come across an extract, can we? Seconds, and then everybody will finish, no matter how many or how few pieces of evidence you have. Okay, wherever you are, stop now. There's a reason that we stop at 7 minutes, even if we haven't got 10 pieces of evidence. It's just mathematically better to stop and get an answer written in the remaining 8 minutes, rather than to spend more time and then run over answering this question, and then we're stealing time from question 5. Okay, so I promise you will get better marks if you just stop after the 15 minutes, move on, stop after the next 15, move on, stop after 15, move on. You will always get better marks. Let's have a look at what we've got. Now, once we've done the evidence, we are really well placed to have a look at the structure, because the only thing we need to do now is look at the problem, the struggle at the beginning, and the problem or the struggle at the end. And we compare them and we say, which is a bigger struggle for this family? So we started out recognizing that there was probably very few funds in this family in terms of money. Okay, there was a deficiency in money. If you look at the end, you've probably underlined something about the fact that this father misses his Navy days with no kids to feed. So he doesn't want to be there. He's fantasizing about being somewhere else, being footloose and fancy free, not having responsibilities. So there's a danger that he is thinking of leaving his step family behind. Now you compare those two struggles, the struggle for money, there's some food on the table, but you know, it's not rich and plentiful and varied and interesting. And then the struggle at the end, where he is really struggling to keep himself in the place of his step family. For me, I think the second one is worse. So I'm going to say that in terms of structure, the family struggle moves from a suggestion that there isn't enough money to a suggestion that the stepfather would rather leave this family. And that is the worst case scenario. Okay, so the family struggles get worse over the course of the extract. If you write that straight up front as your first sentence, if you forget later on, it doesn't matter, you've got some structural comment, and that is going to be worth at least 1 extra mark. Okay. Right, let's have a look at what you guys have got, and we'll share some critical judgment words and think about what is the particular struggle within each quotation and how was it done in the language by the writer. Okay, we did the first 3 together. The next thing I picked up, mother washed the dishes. Okay, so it could be that she just washes them from time to time, and Peter Hawkins, as I recall his name being, just, you know, does do his fair share. But in this section of the extract, it's mother who washes the dishes, and then she goes on to wash the children's faces, and then she gets changed for work. Sounds to me like she's doing a lot of the work in this household. If the 2 grown-ups aren't sharing the workload in a family, then it becomes very tiring for one person. So I'm going to say that there's possibly not an equal divide of the labour and the work in this family, that the mother is left to do a lot of it on her own. So that's what I'm going to say there. And then I'm going to note that there's a bit of an odd quotation, and I did underline it. She folded into her car, but when I've looked back at it, I'm not sure I can say that language there is about her struggles. So although I underlined it, I'm now going to let it go because it doesn't feel to me any longer to answer the question. So feel free to do that. It is better to spend your precious minutes on evidence that you know is answering the question than it is on kind of trying to make a quotation fit the question when there are lots of others that would. So be brave about leaving things behind, leaving things alone. But the car that she falls herself into, a battered blue princess whose patches of rust she was forever daubing with metallic paint. So, money again, isn't it? But they're trying to they can't afford a car. The car gets her to work. If she can't get to work, she can't get paid. So there's a struggle with keeping the car going, keeping the car roadworthy and fit to be on the road, and keeping transport within the family so that she can work. Sounds like a struggle to me. What words are really important there? It was battered. So it really sounds like it's had a tough time. It's an exaggeration, isn't it? So the adjective battered exaggerates the idea of the car almost at the point of breakdown. Okay. She was forever daubing with metal paint. Now, I've just been thinking somewhere along the lines here, I can't remember whether it's in the extracts before. If it is, we learn that he's a mechanic. Why is he, who works with cars, not helping maintain this car? There is something lacking in this man. He's not pulling his weight. So I'm going to suggest that that is part of the family struggle, that actually, although he works with cars, it would seem that he's not contributing to maintaining the family car. There's something lacking in this man. He's not doing his fair share of the work. My low battery warning has just come on, so I'm hoping I'm going to get to the end of this video. If not, I will have to wander off, get it, come back. She drove off to look after dying people until dawn. Now, that sounds like a struggle to me. It's a totally different struggle to maintaining a car. What is the struggle here? Well, it must be very, very taxing and hard work and draining looking after dying people. You have to use a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion. It takes a lot of love, a lot of sympathy. It's draining the mum's emotions, isn't it? And look at when she's doing it. It's until dawn. She does it during the night. Any work that you do at night is always harder. Okay, so there's some very specific struggles that we haven't had before. Okay, let's move on. I might have had a look at until dawn to just emphasize that idea of working through the night. She swept corridors, hard physical work that mum is doing. That's a different struggle, isn't it? And bathed worn out brows. So she's washing, caring for elderly people who themselves are worn out. So nobody's giving her that lifting energy, that boost, are they? Different struggles again. Now, we switch over now to stepfather, who stays home during the nights and essentially falls asleep on the sofa, doesn't he? Eyelids drooped over a warm can of beer. So he's drinking. It's like an anaesthetic. Is he a problem drinker? The suggestion is he possibly could be. Certainly that he is, relaxing himself down with beer. So there's another struggle. That also costs money. It's more expensive to buy one beer than it is to kind of provide a meal for your family. So there's something else that's problematic. The little baby sleeps on him. Laurie and Andrea play in silence. Now, that really makes me wonder, does he have a temper? They daren't make any noise. So one of the struggles could be that they've got a man who's angry, short-tempered, bad-tempered in the house. Oh, my battery's gone. Okay, you can scooch me forward. I'm going to disappear. Go get the flex. Then I'll come back. Then you can kind of start me from there. Okay? You can start some of your write-up, can't you? You start some of your write-up, guys. you're writing your answer, guys, while I'm just bringing this thing back to life. Means there'll be less for you to do later, doesn't it? The description, tea was ketchup with mashed potatoes, suggests the family were struggling for money to provide varied meals. And obviously you guys also started, because I'd just forgotten then, you guys started with the family struggles moved from suggestions that money is short to the idea that the man in this family might disappear at any moment, that he doesn't want the responsibility. Then you would have gone into the description, tea was ketchup. Okay, I'm back. Where were we? Laurie and I played in silence. They were allowed to play with Lego, but only if we pressed the bricks together without any clicking sounds. Now, there's something really humorous there. That isn't it a ridiculous situation? You can play with Lego, but you know, the tiny sounds of the clicking they weren't even allowed to make. It's very dark humour. It suggests to me that he loses his temper quickly. So I would mention that it is a dark humour, but it suggests that they're not allowed to play like children, are they, either? And that's really important for children's development. So there's another struggle, that these children are being tamped down, limited in the things they can do to play and amuse themselves. Okay, let's move on. We put all our bricks into building ships to please our stepfather. Now look, they wanted to make Lego helicopters and dinosaurs, but they didn't. They decided that they would put their own pleasures aside and instead build ships to please our stepfather. So there's something about him that would suggest to me that is, as I said, bad mood, and they want to please him, that they're struggling to kind of understand whether he loves them or not. So they feel that they have to compensate. So it suggests the children compensate or try to get their stepfather's attention and love, that it isn't freely given. Okay, he slumped back on the settee. So here I'm going to have a look at the word slumped. The description, he slumped back on the settee, suggests that he is very tired. So both parents are tired all the time in this family. Slumped suggests that he could also be drinking too much. The verb slumped suggests that he could also be drinking too much and almost passing out. He certainly shows no interest in the girls, does he? He's not interacting with them, he's not playing with them. Okay, let's move on. I left a big gap then. Now, in that gap, they wake him up to show him the ships, don't they? And a smile breaks over his creased face. Well, lovely, but that doesn't show the family struggle. So I left that. And then I finished up with, it reminds me of my Navy days, he says. So the dialogue, because this is said in dialogue. But what's of interest here for me is no kids to feed, no cars to fix, neither. So the dialogue, no kids to feed, no cars to fix, neither, suggests the father is fantasizing about having no responsibilities, that he could leave the family at any moment. I'm not going to go on to say, and this shows that the family is struggling, because I'm just wasting words there. Of course it does. It should. Your examiner will know implicitly that you've picked out a struggle, but you've named what the struggle is. So there's that there, and that would finish that off. Now, we've just one more thing to deal with, to keep in our mind, tone. Well, there's a bit of irony and humour in here, isn't there, about the fact that they're not allowed to press the Lego bricks together, make a noise. So it's an ironic tone there, or a humorous tone. She sounds to me, tone isn't complicated to talk about. Tone is just emotion. What emotion does she feel when she tells us this? I think she's a little bit resentful at times, isn't she? She's sympathetic and compassionate in her tone about her mum doing that hard, tiring work. So there's 2 or 3 tones that we can mention. Right, so you're ready to do the write-up now. One other thing that I haven't mentioned yet before I recap what you should be doing. We know that if we give an overview on structure, that we've answered some of the structure question. If you can find anything that links together and they're side by side, this is further emphasised by. So mum does a difficult job working with dying people. This is, and it must be tiring. This is further emphasised by, and then go on to the next quote that also helps to say that. The fact that it's physically tiring, she has to sweep floors. The fact that it's overnight. So use your next, again, and then. Right, I'm going to recap what you're doing. If you use 7 minutes, you're going to do 8 minutes writing. If you use 6, 9 minutes writing. If you use 5, 10 minutes writing. You're going to start with the overview. The family struggle moves from, name the first one, to, name the last one. After that, you're going to go through into our pattern. If you can, description, phrase, language, you don't always have to say that. After you've used the word description once, it becomes redundant. Use some Zoom words as well. So if you can, the description, give me the long quote, suggest 1, 2, with the, and then give me the word class, and then do your Zoom word, battered, the adjective battered, further suggesting. Sometimes you can just look at one word if you want. Slumped suggests that the father got drunk. Full stop, move on. Okay, you are going to do brilliantly with this because we've gone through the different struggles. We've heard for each quotation a different struggle. So get on with the writing now. Make sure that you finish up today's work, but you've only got maximum another 8 minutes of work to do today. Okay, and I will see you either tomorrow, or if you're crunching it today, I'll see you in a bit to have a look at question 5. Good luck, guys.